there, booty enthusiasts. August is here, and it's time to celebrate every part of you, especially your bum. At Starship, we believe in exploring pleasure in a shame-free environment, and we have everything you need, whether you're a newbie or a seasoned pro. Visit shopstarship.com to find a location near you or shop online. Free shipping on all orders over $50. Use code 99X to get 15% off your entire purchase. That's 99X for 15% off on shopstarship.com. We're proud to be your sexual health and wellness partner.
When you need mealtime inspiration, it's worth shopping Kroger, where you'll find over 30,000 mouth-watering choices that excite your inner foodie. And no matter what tasty choice you make, you'll enjoy our everyday low prices, plus extra ways to save, like digital coupons worth over $600 each week. You can also save up to $1 off per gallon at the pump with fuel points. More savings and more inspiring flavors make shopping Kroger worth it every time. Kroger, fresh for everyone. Fuel restrictions apply.
The following podcast may contain discussions supported by science that may be considered dangerous to some listeners and conspiracy theorists. Discretion is advised.
The 3 Down Greencast is brought to you by Lucky Bastard Distillers, Saskatchewan's premier distillery, and by the Pile of Bones Brewing Company, brewed in the heart of Regina. Welcome to the 3 Down Greencast. You are listening to the internet's only fullback appreciation podcast. That one might actually be true. I am Joel Gasson with John Fraser as usual. Few things to talk about. As no, we are not recording earlier now because of this week's game specifically.
It is a happy.
It did work out weird. It does.
It's a happy coincidence.
It does. This kind of does have like emergency pod feels that we're recording the day after. Or 2 days after, I guess, the Riders completely shit the bed and may have cost them anything in terms of the goodwill they may have built at this point during the season. But anyway,
yes,
that is not the case. We will be generally probably recording on Sundays for the rest of the season now due to life. To put it that way.
Actually, mostly life, but let's be honest, it's because of curling, and because you and I, as we do every winter, both begin our curling seasons here. I start mine on Tuesday, and you start yours the following Monday. So yeah, we'll be drinking beers and throwing rocks during normal record nights. But I do like getting out ahead of everybody because I feel like our listeners might go from 7 to like maybe 9 tonight.
It's possible. I was looking around the back end, sort of where like our host site on Saturday morning and on Sunday morning. Yeah. I think it was Saturday morning even. And there was like a weird spike in listens, even though we hadn't really recorded anything in like a week. I was like, okay, that's weird. But anyway, like it wasn't anything. It was a huge number by any stretch of the imagination, but it was still like a weird sort of bump considering the timing. Coincidence maybe, I don't know, but it happened. So yeah, we do have a lot to talk about on that football game, and basically the gist of the conversation is how deep should the changes be coming to the Saskatchewan Roughriders? I think that's a fair conversation to have at this point. So we will have that conversation. Yes. Before though, there's always fun in the world of football, and today, Sunday, September 24th, we witnessed something in the afternoon that I can't really remember seeing in my lifetime that I can remember, and that is the Houston Texans, of all teams, doing something fun. It was, not surprisingly, against the Jacksonville Jaguars, despite their in general improved nature of late. They are still the Jacksonville Jaguars. There was sort of a muffed kick return that Houston kind of blew up, and then what happened was the fullback took it all the way to the house for a touchdown. And they were trying to... That's the pure kind of chaos we're here for.
Well, I was watching on Red Zone today. By the way, Scott Hansen, greatest broadcaster in football these days. Like how that man keeps that energy level going for 8 hours of commercial-free football is just incredible. So I don't know what Jacksonville was doing, but they were like trying to sky it to one of the upbacks, hoping that maybe he would like fumble it. And it's funny because the fullback who grabbed it does. Yeah. Mission accomplished. He fumbled it. Too bad. He also picked the damn ball up, found the sideline, and ran all the way up the field. Like, I love, and you and I have talked about our love of big man touchdowns. Like when the O lineman reports is eligible, or get a D lineman in the backfield. We just love the big guys getting the spotlight. But like, This was a big man running 70 yards in full tilt and beating the entire Jacksonville Jaguars special teams covers team.
Yeah, like this wasn't like
It was
big
like-
man that was hard to take down. He didn't outmuscle basically anyone. He just actually ran past everyone. It's incredible.
Like I always say, like when I'm playing slow pitcher or back in my touch football days, I am deceptively fast for a fat guy, and I very much saw that same energy, but like from this very large fullback. And the best part was, I was sitting there on my couch and I was watching Red Zone, and I'm texting you as it's happening. I'm like, big man, touchdown, fullback, kickoff.
I think it took you like 3 attempts to like actually get everything in there that you wanted.
It actually did. There are 3 texts to finally say fullback kickoff return touchdown. I think the first one was fullback touchdown, fullback kickoff return, fullback kickoff return touchdown, exclamation points.
Yes,
And then
that's pretty much how it went.
instantly to the bird to go find the video of it. So yeah, chaotic, stupid day in the NFL, kind of taking one from the CFL, and not like somebody hanging a 70 burger today too.
Yeah, nothing like seeing a college football score on a Sunday.
70-20, like that was absurd. But now I will admit, if I am Miami Dolphins kicker Jason Sanders, and you essentially get your 10th touchdown of the game because they couldn't stop you just trying to run out the clock, they couldn't stop like your 17th string running back, I missed that extra point on purpose. Because I am not a grown-up.
I think we've talked about this before. Like, I believe, I don't remember if it was a college game or if it must have been a college game, where I believe the kicker did miss the extra point on the 70th point of a game. And I believe we talked about whether it was on purpose or not. And at the college level with their kickers, you never really know. In the NFL level, it would 100% be on purpose. especially given,
for a guy like Jason Saunders.
Especially considering he made the previous 9 of them, right? So
I know we are the farthest thing ever from a fantasy football podcast, but going up against him and seeing 10 points for somebody's kicker from 10 extra points is something I've never seen in my many years of fantasy football. Like if you thought the Banjo Bowl was bad, like that was worse somehow.
Yeah, like that's week 2 in like a weird game between 2 teams that have absolutely no history in a sort of normal environment that never should have led to this. Like, in the NFL, when a new coach takes over, things kind of take time to get going.
Yes.
But that's not a good look for Sean Payton to have his team fooled like that.
Oh no! Well, especially too against Denver Broncos legend Mike McDaniel, the former ball boy of the team, who I love how like. Is there anybody that's had a bigger glow up than him? Like, if you see him when he was a kid, he was kind of weird looking, and then like all of us in the early 2000s got really into frosted tips and puka shell necklaces. But now, like, dude's a certified man rocket.
Yeah, and I mean his promo appearance in those Peyton and Eli things looking for a co-host is pretty good too. I don't know if you saw that one.
Oh, I did. I love the fact that TSN has done some bad things with football. The fact that they have moved the Manning cast to TSN Plus is absolute bullshit, and it bothers me. I spend enough per year on watching all of the football I possibly can.
Yeah, well, luckily there are ways that we do not endorse for watching broadcasts that are not available to you.
Oh, I'm a pirate. It's the pirate's life for me.
So I guess the good news for the Saskatchewan Roughriders is they did not give up 70 points to the Ottawa Redblacks.
They may as well have, though. My God. I would have rather seen just Ottawa somehow go into Death Star mode for the first time ever than whatever that was.
Yeah. So we're going to talk about that and sort of the direction of the franchise and a little bit more. But as usual, before we get into all that, John, for the Pile of Bones Brewing Company, what is in the glass this week?
Joel, we have a seventh straight double fisting at night. This time,
I think that's just the new normal, isn't it?
It really is.
I think more often than not, it's the new normal.
Well, it is the new normal, especially since Lucky Bastard came on board, and 2, since I moved my desk far away enough from my beer fridge that I can't just kind of carry my laptop and grab a second beer, so I just double fist it now. But especially thanks to shady door-to-door salespeople trying to take advantage of my in-laws, and people thinking the Saskatchewan Rush are actually going to move to Manitoba.
What?
I have dealt
Are
with
they taking the blades and the berries with them?
I guess so. I just fucking replace the gold eyes, because here come the berries. Like, I know we get a little bit of crossover listens because of my lacrosse background. I can tell you, the Rush are not moving. Like, that is I know.
That's what a team propagandist would say.
Technically, I'm still a free agent. I haven't re-signed yet. I just plan on doing it right away. My agent, which in my latest conversation with Not Fake Gainer, I've designated as you, needs to get on with the Rush people. But no, the Rush are not moving. Like, I guess it's because they switched to this like sweet Bison logo, which amazing, 10 out of 10, incredible. People think they're becoming Manitoban, but like, no, it's not happening. So between that and shady door-to-door salespeople, long story short, I'm drinking both again a Gambit Gin and a Pile of Bones White IPA, and I'm feeling violent and spicy tonight, Joel Gasson. And I don't mean in a contrived, like, time for Fraser's rant kind of way. I kind of got a chip on my shoulder tonight.
It's because no one believed in you. It's John versus the world, right?
Hey, for a dumbass kid from middle of nowhere, Northern Ontario, to turn into a relatively successful broadcaster, there wasn't a lot of belief. But hey, we've pulled it off, Team Fraser.
Mm-hmm. And as an aside, that was not a long story short. It was, I wouldn't say it was a long story, but it was definitely not made short.
By my standards and my stories, it was kind of short. If we're great, we got a grade on a scale here, Gas.
Okay, fair enough. For me, I've decided to mix it up a bit tonight. I am having the zero sugar Saskatoon berry iced tea from our friends at the Lucky Bastard Distillery Company Extravaganza Incorporated.
So now people will read into it because we said the berries and the Rush aren't moving, but you're drinking a Saskatoon berry. Boom. Team moving. Hashtag confirmed right here.
Yes, you heard it here last.
All 7 of you.
Or you said maybe 9 this week. We'll see. We'll see what happens because sometimes, as we've seen in the past, last year especially, the numbers do tend to spike around this time of year when things are going poorly.
Yes. Yeah.
I think it's fair.
And also when we move,
because I mean the summer people are kind of busy and whatnot.
Move to Sunday too.
Yes. I think through the summer people are kind of busy and whatever happens, and then you kind of get into the fall mood, and then football weather hits and you kind of get into it. And 2 years in a row, the Saskatchewan Roughriders have decided that's when they're going to start playing their absolute worst football. And we saw it again Friday night in Ottawa, where the best part of that football game was that it kicked off at 5 o'clock local time here, and it was done by about 8.
That might.
So then
that might be out of everything I've ever read of yours. That might be your best ever good.
That's really all I can.
Like I read that.
I already had it written.
What the fuck are you going to put down as good?
I already had that line written, and then Mary Alfred returned the touchdown. I was like, no, I'm sticking with it. So I will give credit to Mario Alfred for being by far their best player, their most dialed-in player, probably their MOP, and just about give them all the awards, even the defensive one. I don't care. So there's a sort of unofficial good of that game going to Mario Alfred.
Yes. He was good, and it was over enough and early enough in the weekend that you could get on with your day. But I think, unlike running into the Bombers in Death Star mode, I think this one's lingering more.
Yeah, like everyone expected them to lose to the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. I think even an improved Elks team, they had already beaten them twice. It wasn't that bad of a game. Some weird things kind of went against them and they lost that game. So like, okay, it was a bad loss, but it wasn't like a here we go again kind of loss. It was just a loss, which happens.
Yeah.
But this Ottawa one was very much okay, here we go again, because I listened to the CJME CKOM post-game show after the fact, watching college football late on a Saturday night as I do, and yeah, it was Jamie Nye and Gerald Davis and Belton Johnson who brought the point that they have given up well over 700 yards rushing against in the last 3 games. And they've now lost 4 road games in a row by a combined score, don't fact check this, of like 406-12. And it just, and I know Craig Dickinson was asked it after the game. He was like, and it was our 3 Down Nations, Brendan McGuire, that asked him, like, what do you say to the fans? Because you said last week this feels different, but it certainly started to look a lot less like literally the same as last year. Records-wise, teams-wise, like everything, the first half went a different way, but it was the same point, the same spot last year, where it was after the Banjo Bowl, things kind of went completely sideways. Yep. And here we are again, and it looks, the only difference I would say, Craig Dickinson could sit here and say, stick with us, we're different. To me, literally, the only thing I see different is Jake Dolegala is someone that you can keep around here. Like, I think he's fine. He's not why they're losing, and everything else just feels exactly the same.
No, and you're absolutely right. It's amazing watching that game. I had gone out, Lacey and I had gone out for dinner and drinks that night, so I only really got to see into the third quarter, and so I rewatched it tonight. I actually was rewatching it on my iPad while, my youngest was watching her TV shows to kind of calm down because mom wasn't in the house, so of course she was freaking out. And I want to know, like, you see all these sports movies, and if you've played sports or anything like that, you go in after getting punched in the mouth at halftime, a period break, whatever. And normally your coach gets you fired the F up. You're ready to run through a wall. You're ready to do this. You're ready to go out and stop him in the throat. I would love to know what the hell Craig Dickinson tells his guys. Because it's like the reverse happened. Mm-hmm. Like, you had an ugly, really the first in any of his starts, you had the first really bad decision made by Jake Dolegala. Mm-hmm. Okay, I know some people said, well, you probably should have just ran the ball in that spot. When Dolegala throws the interception, I disagree.
I mean,
there's enough time on the clock.
He had barely, I think all of his incompletions came basically after that. Like he wasn't lighting the world on fire at that point, but he was efficient. He was throwing well. There was no reason not to put him in that spot, especially considering he had led them on drives late in games before in more critical situations, throwing the ball.
Right. So and I want to see, based on the graphic, at one point before that drive, he was like 14 for 18 with 2 touchdowns. Put the damn ball in his hands. Mm-hmm. Like, those are great numbers. Yeah. Like, spectacular numbers. So then, yeah, you've got enough time. You've got the second best kicker in the CFL behind our boy Sergio. You go, you take a couple shots, you stretch the field, you make something happen, and and he makes a bad decision. He's a young guy. He finally makes a bad decision. It's essentially a pick 6. Mm-hmm. The next drive to come out. This may be where I just would have ran it up the gut a couple times. The fumble that went to nowhere. I think that whoever made the decision to keep throwing there, whether that's Jeffrey, whether that's Craig, whoever it is, what are you doing? You just had your young quarterback make a crucial mistake, his first, run the ball a couple times. Hickson had been running it well, go into the locker room with a lead, feeling a little bit better, you're calmed down. Yeah. Now, you go in the locker room, and Craig Dickinson seemingly sucks the energy out of literally every soul in that room. I don't know if he was Buzz Killington from Family Guy talking about bridges when he should have been talking about football. And I've never seen a team that looked decent in the first, 28 minutes of football look like complete dog shit after. Mm-hmm. Like watch that game on fast forward. It's hilarious. Even on fast forward, you can tell the effort level's not there. I think that's the thing that Craig comes out and says, we're different. Yeah, you got different bodies in there. Yeah, you probably got more talent in the room this year. Yeah, you probably got some better pieces, but you still don't play like you give a shit. Nobody looks like they give a shit. You give up 700 yards rushing in 3 games? Ask any coach. Stopping the run is about give a shit. They have none of it. 0.
Yeah.
What the hell happened?
Yeah. And I mean, we're talking about the same things every year, last couple of years. Yes. And this is a team, I mean, if you want to look at the big picture, So 2019, they go to the West Final. They host the West Final. Everything looks great. That could be, there's a number of reasons why that happened. That was the team Chris Jones was building towards for that moment. So Craig kind of had a pretty easy plug and play sort of situation there. You lose the year to COVID, and it's kind of just been a slow downward spiral ever since that 2019 year, essentially.
Yes.
They have the wild game in 21 that gets them to the West Final, but that was kind of lucky. It's all going backwards, and there is at this point, it's difficult to look at the situation and think that the guys in charge right now, at least in a coaching level, are the ones to get them out of it, because you listen to people that go to practice every single day.
Mm-hmm.
And you ask them about said practices, and they say it's like no practice they've ever seen before in professional football, and not in a good way. Mm-hmm. They're not out there working on a lot of offense or defense. There's a lot of weird sort of niche special team stuff going on, and there's a lot of, it's not very fast paced. Apparently, there's just a lot of sort of, they're not working on the things they should be working on as you would expect a professional football team to work on. And I guess
most professional football teams work on.
Yeah, and I guess it's been this way for a few years. So, I used to go to practice every day. I bet if I went to one, I could probably walk in there and right away and be like, yeah, this is different. And, Craig Dickinson can talk. He brought it up a number of times in his post-game comments about, you're only allowed one padded practice week and blah, 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 when talking about the defense. It's like, well, that's true for everyone.
Yes.
And, most of the league has figured it out.
At Kroger Pharmacy, care is what's most convenient for you. Care is being here when you need us. We're open evenings and weekends. Care is helping you save more. Most insurance plans and discount cards are accepted at your local Kroger Pharmacy. Care is saving you time by managing your prescriptions online. You can request refills, check order status, and more. Care is convenience that works for everyone. Kroger Health, a world of care is in store. Services and availability vary by location. Age and other restrictions may apply. For coverage, consult your health insurance company. Visit the pharmacy or our site for details. When you need mealtime inspiration, it's worth shopping Kroger, where you'll find over 30,000 mouth-watering choices that excite your inner foodie. And no matter what tasty choice you make, you'll enjoy our everyday low prices, plus extra ways to save, like digital coupons worth over $600 each week. You can also save up to $1 off per gallon at the pump with fuel points. More savings and more inspiring flavors make shopping Kroger worth it every time. Kroger, fresh for everyone. Fuel restrictions apply.
Most of the league isn't having these issues at week 17 or wherever we're at in the regular season right now. We're at the point in the year where these sort of things that should be fixed in training camp, if you're still having these issues toward October, you're not going to fix them at this point. We've seen this in many ways, in every sort of way, whether it's all of the little things that matter throughout the course of a football game, from taking penalties, which they had under control for about half the season, and it seems to be falling off the rails again.
11 penalties, 123 yards against Ottawa, yes.
Yeah, the one drive specifically was maddening because they led Ottawa all the way down to the field, that touchdown, and let them back into the game. At that moment was the exact moment that's when you knew, because before that touchdown drive, it finally was feeling like maybe the game the Riders are going to win fairly comfortably.
Yes.
During those first 3 or 4 drives. That first half of the first quarter, you're like, okay, this is the game. Maybe they'll finally win by 10 or 12 points and everything will be fine.
Even until the Dolegala pick six. I'm calling it a pick six. It basically was that.
Yeah. But then they take like 100 penalties in one drive. Ottawa goes all the way down and scores, and you're like, okay, here we go again. They're not going to make this easy on themselves, and sure enough, they didn't. So yeah, if that's, you can't fix that at this point of the year. You can't fix tackling at this point of the year. You can't fix really much in terms of offensive scheme, in terms of, working your receivers and doing different things like that at this time of the year, quite frankly. So what do? You're stuck with what you got at this point, and it's not good. And it hasn't been, and it's the same things we're talking about every single year for the last 3 or 4. And at that point, they've changed out players, they've changed out, the offensive coordinator, they've tried all these different things, and it all feels the exact same thing. So if it's not the players, not the offensive coordinator, where are we sitting?
Well, even though apparently you're not allowed to discuss it or you're not a real fan, it's definitely the head coach.
Neither of us are fans anyway.
I just want, well, 100%. I just want to back up for a second too, as this thought sprung to my head as you were making that great point. A combination of one of the listeners on the Green Zone postgame show brought up like how close they've been to basically the worst season ever.
Yeah,
and
it could easily be like 2 and something right now.
Well, and this is the question I posed to you: where are they without Mario Alford, who you and I both said just give him every single award because he has scored in those first few games where they were winning. Teams knew he was a threat, but were kicking it to him anyways. Now you can see every punter out. There's now that the punting game isn't just kick as hard as you can and try to get a rouge. Now that they've actually got some skill at that position, thanks to the global draft, you got a lot of guys pinning him up against the sideline so he can't. He's still ripping off returns. The most impressive part about Mary Alford, but 1 win, 2 wins without Mary Alford this year? Which is like the fact that we're saying this about a punt returner who, yes, can affect the outcome of the game, and special teams is an equal third of the game, but
100%. You
can't rely on a punt return or a kick return touchdown every single game, and for a while they were getting that, and they're still getting that and not winning. Those are essentially bonus points you're being handed, and you're not winning.
Yeah.
So it's just, and the dumbest thing is, because the way this is all going, they're probably making the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, they're lucky that the Calgary Stampeders seem to be less interested in winning. This race for third in the West and even, the East, sort of the seeding in the East between 2 and 3, feels like more of a stumble than a race at this point. So they're going to get in. The question, I guess, becomes, is it enough? And I know there are people out there who... There's kind of mixed feelings right now. I think the general consensus, from most sort of, unbiased pundits who follow this team and, the fans and all that, is that Craig Dickinson's days are numbered here. The question is when, not if. And there are people who are saying it should be now. It should have been, I guess, Saturday was probably the day a lot of people would have done it. There are other people.
I am in that camp. I'm 100% in that camp.
And there are other people who think it's basically you might as well run out the year at this point. I don't know where I stand. I could see the arguments for both. I think based on what I heard from a lot of fans after that game listening around, I think you almost consider doing it. Maybe you did it out on Saturday, not so much to try and win more football games down the stretch, but just to send that message to a fan base that is clearly very frustrated. In something that I've never, in a very different level than just we suck. Like, I have followed this, I've covered this team for 10 years now. There's some guys that have done it for a lot longer. And, none of us can remember it being this bad. Like, okay, there was the 2014 game in Ottawa with Corey Chamberlain, and everything was really bad about that. But there was never a moment of, I'm giving up season tickets, I'm never going to a game again if something doesn't happen. Like, it was just, fire Corey Chamberlain. That's all they were saying. Yes, I know I said it wrong.
I love that you said it wrong. It makes me so happy you said it wrong.
So that's basically all that was. This is still, there's mixed in there, but you hear them. And you hear a lot of disgruntled, and the disgruntled is slowly turning into apathetic, which is even worse. And then we already had the lowest attended game, at least on paper, at New Mosaic Stadium this past week. Where's it headed? And... the point has been brought up by many that, those that renewed their tickets for 3 years during COVID to keep the team afloat sort of thing, that price freeze is over after this year.
Yeah.
And thanks to our lovely provincial government, PST is going on tickets next year because most season tickets were purchased before that happened last year. So whether the team, I don't think the team's in a position where they should be raising prices. So even if they decide not to do that, the government is still going to do that for them. So that's going to be a decision that people are going to have to make. And, you kind of maybe want to get ahead of that. And if you drag this out with an administration that is very unpopular, that might cost you some bucks. And that's ultimately what Craig Reynolds' job is.
Well, and I think you're right. It will cost you bucks. I think because we've talked about players' losses and coaches' losses, and watching how Dickinson has consistently not been able to motivate his men coming out of the room. And to me, Friday's the perfect microcosm of the Craig Dickinson coaching era, where you look great, some bad shit happens, and it just spirals out of control. And to me, that's 100% on the head coach. So I would have been giving him the, hey, we're flying back to Regina. Here's your Uber to your own airport treatment on Friday night. Now, I get it, coaching cap and stuff like that, but I mean, Kelly Jeffries, I don't know if he's earned the right to take that job, but has been an assistant head coach in Montreal long enough that he has the resume to take the job at least on an interim basis, or give it to Jason Shivers or whomever. Give it to you or me off the street. Like, you're right. Something needs to be done. And I'm in the camp that if you want any hope of salvaging this season, you need to do something now.
Yeah.
Because it's not working. And Friday was an example of that. Friday was an absolute, like, how often do you watch football games? Like, you and I watch shitloads of football, and you can generally tell, minus when things get really chaotic, who's winning, who's losing.
Yeah.
Right? I don't think I've ever seen a team that I went, oh yeah, that first 28 minutes of the game, I'm going, the Riders are running away with this. This is cruise control night. Put your feet up, enjoy your beverages, have a great night, Saskatchewan. To, oh my God, I've never hit a panic button harder in my life. So unless, like, and the thing is too, is now the book's out there on them.
Yeah. Well, and
run the ball.
The book's out on them, and there doesn't seem to be much counter to the book. Like, it's one thing for the book to be out on a team, but generally when the book's out, that's when it's like, okay, the book's out on us, we need to do this instead. We're not seeing this instead. We're just seeing them continue to try to do the same things.
And that again comes down to it. If they were getting shredded through the air, that's scheming, that's talent.
Yeah, the other team's just flat better than you, sure.
Exactly. But I mean, even if you look at the defense and, okay, they're not great through the air. Okay, you can attribute that to the general manager not putting pieces in place, not putting talent in place. Maybe the scheming's not in place, stuff like that. Special teams and stopping the run are 100% effort. There are two people responsible for effort. The players in that room who are getting paid, a decent amount of money. I'm not going to pretend these CFL guys are rich, but the majority of that roster makes more money than I do. Right? Yeah. Majority of that roster makes a lot more money than anybody that's listening to this podcast right now makes. So there's the one person that they got to give a shit because they're getting paid to give a shit. And then you got to have the coaching staff that, you know what, there's going to be days. It's going to hurt. You're not going to want to play. Maybe you had a bad night. Maybe you were out till 3 a.m. partying and then somehow lost to a team that was out till 3 a.m. partying by some of our sources. But the people responsible for giving a shit to do the things like be good on special teams and to be good against stopping the run, they just don't give a shit. And to me, that's why you need to make the change, because you and I were joking about this before we started recording. They're probably going to make the playoffs. Their worst case scenario is if they fluke out a win against Winnipeg or BC, both teams that have quarterbacks. God forbid both. Right? But I mean, that's it. You're about to run into two teams. Let's face it, the West Division right now, there is two quarterbacks in the West Division that can be real fucking bad in a game. VA can be atrocious. Zach Collaros, we've been saying it on this here pod, despite what you say, everybody says on Twitter, he can be real bad, especially come playoff time. So this not giving a shit Saskatchewan team can get in with Craig Dickinson at the helm, win 2 games, then how on earth do you justify firing your coach at that point when you get nuked in the Grey Cup by whoever comes out of the East? Yeah. So that's why you make the change now. You could say, if you make the change now, you put Kelly Jeffrey or Jason Shivers in charge, you can rightfully go out and get another guy, even if you make it to the Grey Cup game and win or lose, because, hey, he's just the interim guy. He's not the guy we want. We can go hire whomever. We can go bring in Bob Dice or Paul LaPolice or whoever.
Jordan Maximic, yeah.
Scott Flory. I mean, the Scott Flory one to me, and I'm not normally one that says go hire a U Sports guy. I've spent a lot of time with Scott Flory. Scott Flory would be the medicine this team needs.
The question is, would he want to give up the comfy confines of U Sports' tenured job?
That's exactly it. At his alma mater, a team that he's basically built to, end up in a Vanier Cup, right? That's because that's the first thing. That's the number one thing everybody and I know.
And if they win Can West this year, they've got the Atlantic Provinces in the semifinal. So
you might as well go to the Vanier Cup.
Yep.
Right? You don't have to play anybody good. you get to beat the X-Men.
You just got to survive the craziness that can be Ken West football.
yeah, exactly. Like, yes, that is exactly it. Survive Can West, and you get to play a team that you're gonna beat, like the Dolphins beat the Broncos today.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that's why I am absolutely like rent a billboard, stand in my gitch on Idlewild Drive with a sign above my head, all in on the Fire Craig tomorrow morning train, right? Because what are you gonna even now? What are you gonna do? You're gonna get your because now BC's in a dogfight for the bye, so BC's gonna give a shit next Friday.
Mm-hmm.
Like, when you thought that, okay, well, maybe they'll figure it out because maybe they're going to run into a BC team resting starters. No, all of a sudden, BC's got a chance to take over first. They're going to kick your ass on Friday. Then you're playing a Hamilton team that's back in it. Like,
yeah, I mean, it's another road game, so we know that's going to go at a road game,
right?
And I mean, you're right. It's a weird thing to say out loud, but we talked about it last week where this sort of situation they're in is pretty much worst case scenario. Like, you coming into this season, you either A, wanted them to prove everyone wrong that last year was a fluke and they are in fact a good football team, and they go out and win 10, 12 games and, host a playoff game and everything's honky-dory, or you want them to completely bottom out. Because then at least you know one way or the other what the decision is. Now you're kind of stuck, especially if they win a playoff game or two, you're kind of stuck in this purgatory of, okay, I mean, and I would give Jeremy O'Day a lot of credit if he still went through with it, considering the way the last 2 years have gone. Even if they say get to the West Final or even the Grey Cup, to say, okay, I understand the playoff football is small sample size random bullshit. You win those games, it really doesn't matter in terms of the direction of your franchise. Yeah, so if he actually went through with it after that, I would have a tremendous amount of respect for Jeremy O'Day, because it is clear in the larger picture, the larger sample size, this isn't working. And I don't think you can overhaul the roster again with the same coaching staff, because they've done that.
No. Okay. So I'm going to rapid fire names at you right now. We didn't plan this, but I'm going to do it. And you just tell me stay or go. Okay? Jason Shivers.
Well, I mean, here's the thing. If Craig's gone, you bring in the next head coach, and then it's going to be his guy, so they're probably all gone anyway.
Okay. I agree with you.
And
Jeremy O'Day.
And this is the one I keep going back and forth on. Because I think, the entire coaching staff, let's presume, if Craig's gone, they're probably all gone. Maybe one or two of the non-coordinator, maybe a few position coaches and some assistants kind of stick around.
Like a name in Roosevelt sticks around.
Like something like that tends to happen. Jeremy O'Day, I keep going back and forth on, because I think he tried. He tried to give Craig some different pieces. He obviously mixed it up. He went in on Trevor Harris. Unfortunately, that didn't work out. But hey, I think he's provided some pieces, maybe not to be great, but to be better than they are at least.
Well, and obviously he's got something. He knew to go get Alford and Bain. Like, even you look at this dumpster fire of these past two seasons, there's some pretty shrewd moves in there by Jeremy O'Day. They draft well, right? Like,
yeah. So
I don't know.
I keep going back and forth on
O'Day a second coach.
Yeah, well, I hear that too. A lot of people say that. Daryl Davis is very on this train of every GM deserves a second coach. And I mean, that still applies, in my opinion, to Brennan Taman. We don't need to rehash that one.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I'm like, okay, 99.9% of the time I agree. Every general manager should get to hire at least two head coaches. But I also wrote the piece last year and kind of feel still like Jeremy O'Day made his choice for essentially his second head coach by keeping Craig Dickinson for this season.
And we did talk about that right off the beginning of this season heading into it.
So I can see a scenario where he said, no, you had a chance to make the obvious change last year and didn't. Sorry, but we wish you well. So, I mean, I guess what I'm saying is, and it doesn't make for great podcasting, there isn't a hill with Jeremy O'Day I'm willing to die on. If they say we're keeping him, like, okay, I guess he's earned another chance. He's done just enough to scrape by and get that other head coach in a whole other environment. Or if they say, no, we're cleaning house and moving on, I'm also like, okay. That's kind of where I'm at with Jeremy O'Day.
Right. I do like the moves he's made. I like the talent. I think, again, this is just from a guy that watched a lot of football, that played some high-level other sports in my life. Craig's just not the guy. Like, I think the worst thing that happened to this team was 2019.
Yeah.
Craig looked like a genius. Cody looked like a franchise quarterback. And we all kind of worked off those assumptions for a year and a half, that flash in the pan year, like, which is funny. I can't think of another comparable in pro sports.
Mm-hmm.
Like 2019 was such a flash in the pan that you built around it thinking you had something, and it looked like they had something when it turns out you really didn't. So I don't know if I put that on Jeremy O'Day. The group seemed to respond well to having a lackadaisical, I don't really give a shit coach. And now, and I'm not one to say, oh yeah, bring in some guy that's going to make him go helmet to helmet in practice and do 12 and cut the first guy that fumbles the ball. Like, I get it. Today's athlete is different, but you got to have something in between. Cause like, whatever Craig's doing with his, snowboard instructor practices where nobody's really got any compete level, they're not working on the right stuff. Like, it's amazing to watch teams get better as the season goes on. And the riders consistently in the Craig Dickinson era get worse. Even in 2019, they seem to get worse as the year went on, but, just became a doink away from beating the Bombers and going to the Grey Cup.
Yeah. And I mean, that's, this is where the team has found itself today. And I mean, the craziest thing of all this is we've seen it time and time again in the CFL. Yeah. I don't think they're very good. I think there needs to be a lot of change. But nothing's preventing them from getting hot at the right time and doing something weird, because how many times, this league has a ridiculous history of, I'm sure the 2 lost Toronto Argonauts are going to come into the Grey Cup and lose to a team that has 10 or 11 losses.
What was Ottawa's record when they won with Henry Burris?
8-9-1.
There you go. What was Toronto's record they won when Pinball Clemens took over as head coach for the rest of the year?
I don't remember.
Was that something similar, like 8-10?
There's probably been, there's been a number of times like that where that's happened, yeah.
Right. So, again, they're going, pending the greatest collapse, I would say, in CFL history. They're going to make the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
You would need to lose all 4 of your remaining games, and Calgary needs to rip off a 3 out of 4, including beating Saskatchewan in Calgary. For a minute, I thought that was in Saskatchewan. It's going to be way harder. So the Riders get a Calgary team that take all these problems we're talking about and amplify them by 12, right? That's what's going on in Calgary. But again, Calgary is also
half their team's on the 6th game, so.
Well, I was just going to say, they've got a 6-game injured list that makes, Chris Jones practice look small, right? And then you get a Toronto team that's not going to give a shit Toronto's already resting A.J. Ouellette. Toronto's already resting guys now, right? So you got a banged up Calgary team and Toronto team, and Calgary still needs to win 3 out of 4.
Which
are the Elks?
Which seems like the least likely out of the scenario.
Are the Elks going to make the playoffs?
No. I don't think they can win enough.
Could you imagine?
Either. I mean, it would be far better for the league if they did.
They could get to 7.
It'd be far better than the league if they did, just because at least Trey Ford might be fun in the playoffs. The thought of having to shove the Riders or Calgary in there doesn't really inspire anyone for an entertaining football game.
I'm just throwing it out there. They play a Toronto team that's already resting players on October the 6th. They take on Montreal, who again is doing what Montreal does, and then takes on an Edmonton or a Winnipeg team that will be also resting players in their last game. So that's it. New hot take. The 7-11 Edmonton Elks will make the playoffs and win the Grey Cup.
At Kroger Pharmacy, care is what's most convenient for you. Care is being here when you need us. We're open evenings and weekends. Care is helping you save more. Most insurance plans and discount cards are accepted at your local Kroger Pharmacy. Care is saving you time by managing your prescriptions online. You can request refills, check order status, and more. Care is convenience that works for everyone. Kroger Health, a world of care is in store. Services and availability vary by location. Age and other restrictions may apply. For coverage, consult your health insurance company. Visit the pharmacy or our site for details. At Kroger Pharmacy, care is what's most convenient for you. Care is being here when you need us. We're open evenings and weekends. Care is helping you save more. Most insurance plans and discount cards are accepted at your local Kroger Pharmacy. Care is saving you time by managing your prescriptions online. You can request refills, check order status, and more. care is convenience that works for everyone. Kroger Health, a world of care is in store. Services and availability vary by location. Age and other restrictions may apply. For coverage, consult your health insurance company. Visit the pharmacy or our site for details.